Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Deputy Editorial Director at Media Post, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Amanda Willinger, and she is the Chief Digital Officer at the brand Lagos, and it's a luxury jewelry brand. So love to talk to you about that more even, but no. So welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's a pleasure to meet you and be here.
Yeah, it is so nice to meet you as well. I know I was actually referred to you because I had I'd moderated a panel for the ad club. Anyway, through that, the person I was working with, he knew you, loved you, this was all about, influential marketers, successful women marketers, people you want to profile. And it was just like, you got to talk to Amanda. So
Oh, that's so excellent. I love that.
so
I think I sat on a panel with that same individual, and he's amazing.
Oh, great. So I'm so happy that we were able to connect. And I mean, you're a busy traveler, so I really appreciate that. Now look at your beautiful home. Where are you in New York?
I'm in New York City, and I'm working remotely today. So
Are
we have
you
our
are you back in the office, or are you?
Yeah, we're back in the office probably about 3 days a week at this point, and it's a great schedule for my team and myself. We've coming off of the pandemic where we were all working remotely. It's much better for us to spend a little bit of time together. So we're really enjoying this new normal.
Yeah.
We all work in digital, so we were able to, we definitely stress tested the past 2.5 years, and it worked out very, as well as can be expected. But it's great to be back together again.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and for me, I mostly work digital, except remotely. But then until we have the events, and then I get to see everyone. But
Yeah.
that was that time we were doing virtual events for over a year, and at first it was okay. You're like, all right, we got to make it work. You appreciated that you were still doing it. Then I got to, all right, I need to stop talking to a screen and need to actually.
I
At least
know.
this
If
we
I
get interaction.
never go to another digital event, I will be so happy.
Well, I'm so glad you at least agreed to a digital interview. So
I know.
um,
Yeah.
I want, as I mentioned, you guys, luxury jewelry, and I noticed on your site, your founder, Stephen Lagos, is it, what's his last name? Stephen, it's not, is he Stephen Lagos?
Stephen Lagos,
Okay, great. I was right.
a common brand.
He started everything, and he basically, I read a quote, he said, when you give someone a piece of jewelry, you're really giving them a memory. So what I want to ask you is, do you have a piece of jewelry that really brings you such a warm memory or wonderful memory that every time you put it on, that it evokes that kind of feeling?
That's such a great question, Lisa. And I love that quote. And Steve, our founder, he's a very wise man. And, jewelry truly can be a physical manifestation of memory. When you ask a woman about her jewelry, there's always a story there. Either she's been gifted it, or she's bought it for herself, or it's been handed down. It's usually to celebrate a wonderful occasion. So that's one of the many things that I love about my job, is being able to spread a little bit of joy and happiness every day.
Yeah,
um,
that's
and
a happy moment for you, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you the joy that I get when I look at, because our customers, they write note cards that arrive with the orders, and to see what people write each other when they're sending a gift is just the most heartwarming. It really gives you, I don't know, sort of faith in humanity again. But back to your question, your original question, my jewelry memory is. When I was a child, my mom always wore this amazing Baroque pearl ring on her finger. So just to take a back step, my mother was an antique dealer. And so she had the house that I grew up in was chock-a-block, jam-packed with all sorts of crazy, wild, interesting things. Um, and, one of my favorite things to do as a child was just to rummage, much to her chagrin, of course, was to rummage through her drawers and her cabinets and treasure hunt. And so this ring was just the most beautiful thing I had ever laid my eyes on. This antique Baroque pearl, and it was, Baroque pearls are sort of misshapen and very organic looking, and it sat high on her finger. It was a metallic, shiny gray, and it was held in place by these like gold talons, and so it looked like an ancient piece of sculpture that was unearthed from the ground. And I always wonder what happened to that ring. I have no idea. I
Oh,
have to
you
ask
don't
my
even
mother.
have it. Oh, I was hoping you'd
What
tell
happened to
me
it?
where it is.
But that's like when I think of my mother, I think of that ring and seeing it on her hand.
Yeah, no, and I agree. When my grandmother passed, and she had this chain that it basically she actually had a charm. That's what it was, but it had like bingo cards and we'd give
Oh
it to
my gosh.
with grandchildren would give it to her to add to her charm. So I mean, didn't wear a charm bracelet, but for a long time I was wearing on a long chain the bingo card, and like people were always like, "Why are you wearing a bingo card?" But it reminded me of my grandmother. So I definitely can see that as far as it does evoke those kind of memories. So
And
that's
you wear it close to it sits on your skin. You
yeah.
wear it close to your heart. It's imbued with so much emotion. It's deeply personal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have to say it would have been a happier story if you had it on your finger.
I know, I
Like,
know,
you want
I
your mom's
know.
ring.
I'm
But
sure it's, in some drawer, or I'm sure she still has it somewhere. I just
it'll
haven't seen
show
it
up
in
eventually, and then
here. Exactly.
then you'll have to let me know, and you'll show me the ring.
I will. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and I also noticed in terms of, I do my snooping, and that you sort of see yourself, and just from what you've talked about with your mom and all of the, wonderful things, adventure things in your apartment or in your house, um, that that created that maybe artistic side of you, seeing all of these, things like the Baroque ring or whatever knickknacks might have been there, or anything that she created antique wise. But you also have a science side to you, from what I'm doing, finding in my snooping. So it does make sense that you sort of follow the path you have. Talk about that. I mean, was that when you first graduated, when you first set out, what were you wanting to do? What were you aspiring to do? And how did that shape form as you sort of progressed in your career?
It's a great question. Well, when I was in college, I was an art history major. So from my earliest memories as a child, I really thought in color and pictures, and I was like a creative kid. I loved crafting. Um, and during my studies, I was fascinated by history, and I really felt that you could unlock all the answers of the universe by looking at the art of the time. Um, and then, so I would say I originally envisioned becoming maybe.
Oh my gosh, did he just
Oh,
fly over
sorry.
the couch? No, I told you I love dogs. She warned us that
So
they warned
embarrassing.
me that this could happen. What is
Anytime
her
the
name?
UPS guy comes.
His or her name?
It's their litter mates, and they're called Cosmo and Cleo.
Cause I love that. So I have no problem with hearing of
So
getting
sorry about
what
that.
they are.
Terribly misbehaved. Head of security here. But anyway, back to your question. So I envisioned at the time maybe becoming an art lawyer, or becoming a curator at a museum or a gallery. But then as I got started on my career, I realized how fulfilling and how creatively inspired I felt by working in marketing. And so, and I've worked for some great brands of the world. So I feel really, really lucky. Um,
Well,
and
that you're saying that kind of a little bit underestimated. Like you're sort of throwing that away. Great brands of the world, amazing brands of what you do, and talk about that. I mean, Phillips DePury, Christie, Sotheby's. I mean, they're not. That's pretty impressive to work
yeah,
for them and to train through them to get you to where you are today. Talk about, like, did you initially go to be working at an auction house, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I was. It's an amazing experience to work for the auction houses, especially if you're passionate about art. I mean, I was on the marketing side, but working on the marketing side for the auction houses is an amazing education because you're almost working in an agency because you have all these different departments. You have fine jewelry, you have um, old master paintings, you have Native American art. So there's great diversity, yet it all falls under the umbrella of the house. So it has to feel consistent and tight, and yet show the personalities of the departments. And you work with incredible people. So it was great education. I think for whatever anyone does, it's a great place to start. And so I was really jazzed by that. But then I was, over the course of, the past decade, I was able to really transition, or I would say evolve my career from, I was working in marketing and creative development to digital. And this really, I would say, does suit my temperament. So I love, how dynamic digital is and how fast moving and innovating, yet the sort of the principles of marketing persist. So really it's all about delivering it's about understanding your customer inside and out, delivering a high quality differentiated product, and having a high value proposition for your customers. So I was able to transition from creative development on the art side to working in jewelry, and I've worked in jewelry now for over a decade. I worked at David Yurman, Ippolita, and now I've been at Lagos for quite a while now.
Yeah, and I think it does merge the two worlds that you seem to have a passion for early on, which is the art and science. And because marketing is very much a science. I mean,
Totally.
it is. I mean, it's analytics. I mean, not every marketer gets involved in that side of it, but it all comes to play. Or what people are saying, reading people, how you need to, promote a particular product to the world, and then obviously how people are responding. So that's so important. But the art of it, and I know that even when I was seeing with different in Cannes, they were having panels. They're talking about, are we losing creative? Is it not becoming a priority anymore? But I mean, do you think that you can ever lose creative just for the science, or does it have to be the melding of the two?
I mean, especially in luxury, it's all about the marriage of the two. Algorithms are so important, and we're able to deliver a much better customer experience from a CX and a UX perspective because we know a lot more about how our customers are engaging with the brand. So the data and like we couldn't do what we're doing. So it's a much better experience because of the data and the science. But if we just left it up to data and science only, it would be lacking. So it really is just this beautiful blend of art and science. And I would say I love beautiful pictures, but if the beautiful picture doesn't perform, I don't love the beautiful picture anymore. It has to work, and it has to be relevant for our customer. And each customer is different, depending on where they live, and depending on their age, depending on there's so many factors,
Yeah.
and how they found out about us, and and what they've purchased in the past, and there's so many factors.
You have to take that all into account. I know when I first started working with Media Post, I was, as a consumer, I was more about, oh, that was so cute, or oh, that was funny, or oh, that moved me. And so, of course, that's the art part of it, the creative part of it. But I didn't necessarily, whereas then I would talk to someone from my team, and they're like, yeah, but it didn't, when I'm interviewing, talking with one of the marketers from the brand that had that particular spot, they'd be like, yeah, it didn't perform well, but then this did. And so again, as you said, it can't just be what the consumer doesn't necessarily know. Is there's a lot more going into that what's affecting how they perceive something or how they respond to something that they watch.
Totally. It's so true. It's so true. And both are equally important.
Yep. Nope, I agree. I've been
You
learning
know,
that.
and especially in digital and in luxury, delivering, and tech is has to be a part of it. Obviously, it's like this high tech and high touch experience. At the end of the day, we're delivering a physical product. Yesterday I sat on I listened to a panel about the metaverse and
Getting a lot of
and
that.
NFTs and all of that. But at the end of the day, at Lagos, hopefully you have a beautiful experience on the site or in one of our stores. And you feel taken care of. If anything goes wrong, we will take care of you. But at the end of the day, we deliver what we hope is a beautiful, meaningful piece of jewelry that you will cherish for years to come. And so that's the high touch part.
Yep, definitely. Well, I want to now have a little fun with a trivia game that I want to do. So,
Okay.
your game. Okay, so as I said, you've worked at Christie's, Sotheby's, and also Philip de Pury. So many times places like that are featured in films or TV shows or whatnot. So I'm going to name 3 places that, so one for each, one fits with each. So match the one to the auction house. Okay. So we have Ocean's 8.
Oh my God.
Sandra Bullock. We have Octopussy from 1983.
So meaning each of these auction houses were featured in the film?
Yes, in one of them. So one was featured in it. So I'm naming 3 films, and we have Ghostbusters 2. So which auction house that you worked in was featured in, like, match which one to which one?
Okay.
All right, let's say Ocean's 8. Which one was that?
Sotheby's.
Okay. Octopussy.
Christie's.
Okay, and Ghostbusters.
Sotheby's.
Well, no, you only have the one left.
Definitely not Phillips, because that was not around during, well, yeah, actually it was.
Ghostbusters 2 in 1989.
Uh-huh.
It was
Okay. So well, then I'll say Phillips.
It was Phillips, but actually at the time it was Orifer's Crystal Gallery.
Right.
So you were kind of, okay, that was a sneak.
And half a point.
you mixed up. Ocean's 8 was Christie's, because they were out in the yard. They didn't go inside, but they were outside at yard lease for the film. And Octopussy, they were on New Bond Street.
Okay. Well, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't seen any of those films. So, so I get a C- for guessing.
I actually have seen, I've actually seen one of the films, and so I didn't know, but I liked research, so I thought I'd throw a little game in there. All right, well, let's back to something that you can answer.
Okay.
I'm curious in terms of, has there been a setback in your life that maybe seemed like the worst thing ever, but it actually turned into be a good thing when you look back on it? What's sort of your silver lining moment?
That's a good question. I would say, I don't really like to look back, to be honest with you. I know that is a ridiculous thing to say, because there are so many advantages to being reflective and learning from one's mistakes, right? That's an obvious statement. And yet I wake up every morning, I'm happy to be alive, and I just want to do the best I can that day. But the one thing that comes to mind, I don't know if I'm exactly answering your question, but the one thing that comes to mind is when I was young, and I think I had said that I wanted to be an art lawyer. So I applied to all of these law schools, and I got into a few, and I was making a decision on which one to accept. And I had this, say, sort of existential crisis where I was like, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. And I was very happy doing, was working one of my first jobs at the Smithsonian. And so my decision was made. And then I think it was a great decision, but who knows? I feel like there were so many forks in the road, and one of the keys to happiness, or at least one of the keys to happiness for me, has always been to be decisive, make a decision, and then just keep moving forward.
And live with it.
And live with it. There's honestly, I feel like even mistakes or things that you regret in life, just move forward.
Yeah. No, and I think it all takes you to where you are today, and yes, there are moments you look back and say, oh, maybe if I did
maybe I should have done it this way.
Machine, that's really not going to be helpful. So I love that. I love that mentality that you like to just live for today, what you were saying early on, because I do think that's not always easy to do. So I think that's wonderful that you're able to do that. So, but anyway, um, I want to ask you about speaking of living for today, or especially these past couple of years. They've been very difficult, obviously pandemic, but just with everything that's going on, Black Lives Matter, just inflation we're seeing now, and also with the anti-Asian movements, and just so much negativity. And finally, I feel like consumers are having enough, and they're really coming out and they're really expecting more from their brands. So talk about that. What is a brand's responsibility in terms of not necessarily changing who they are, but sort of stepping up and being there for maybe a voice for people who can't speak for themselves?
Well, I think, a brand is only a brand because of the promise it makes to its customers and the consistency with which it delivers on that promise. And a brand promise is based on its values, and the actions and words of a brand must reflect those values. Otherwise, you're just a soulless company, and soulless people that work at that company. And so at Lagos, one of our values is integrity, and this is really about doing the right thing across all aspects of our business, from our employees to our vendors to our supply chain to our um, product development practices, to our customer care, across all aspects of the business. And this is really important to me, and it's something that I'm very proud of. These days, everyone has all the information, they carry around with them in the palm of their hands. So, your customers and your fans and followers can call you out for not doing the right thing or acting performatively. And ultimately, I think that's a good thing. This transparency, it holds all of us to higher standards, and it weeds out those that are in business for the wrong reasons. And I just think it's important to support the communities that support you.
Yeah, no, I completely
That
agree.
makes sense.
It does. No, it really does. And I do want to correct when I said negative things. When I say Black Lives Matters, it's not, obviously that's not the negative. They're responding to the negative, and
Yes.
need that kind of, people to stand up and people to, sort of be the voice, and be, whether it be a bunch of people with don't have the megaphone coming together and making and being loud enough to have a megaphone, or brands like yourself and other large brands who can do that, because they do
Yeah.
have the podium. So no, I definitely agree. Well, I want to now make it a little lighter on that note, and I love to ask what time period, if you could choose, what time period would you go back to, or go forward in, or live in, or stay in? What would be your preference?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think there are many advantages to living in the 21st century. It is definitely not perfect, right? As you had stated, just a few of the challenges we've all been experiencing these past few years, but there are many advantages. But with that being said, there are also, these bygone eras of peace and prosperity and cultural awakening. And so for the purpose of this little game and the opportunity to ride on a time machine, I'm going to stop in, let's say, Renaissance Italy. So, and Renaissance Italy obviously was a really interesting time period, but it was born of tragedy. So Renaissance Italy came about after the Black Death killed off nearly, what is it, a third of Europe's population. So there were fewer workers. So those individuals were able to negotiate higher wages and a better quality of life. And then there was incredible wealth coming in as well from these, wealthy banking and merchant families like the Medicis, who were able to sponsor individuals like Michelangelo and Da Vinci and Galileo so that they could work full-time on their craft. And, it was just incredible artistic innovation and scientific discovery during this time period. Yet, going back to what I stated earlier, opportunities were afforded to some, but there was a lot of pain and persecution for other people. And actually, maybe this is not, maybe I should recant what I just said, because women also were still the subject of men during this time period. So I take it back. I'm not going to, it seems amazing, but
That is what you said. And actually, though, I do have to say, Amanda, you are definitely a history major. We can see.
but maybe I should get off in Paris, France in the roaring 20s.
Well, you can go by way of Italy, go up, go forward a little, and then you can end up.
Exactly, exactly. Or
That,
maybe just make the best of today.
yeah. And then come to the technology of today. Yes, so you'll have a combination of periods that you can be a part of. Well, so do you have any indulgences, any guilty pleasures that you just enjoy doing? Kind of, all right, you shouldn't be, but this is what you're going to spend your time doing, or eating,
Um,
or watching, or binging, or whatever it may be.
Too many guilty pleasures, of course. And this one doesn't sound so guilty, but it's something that I've been obsessed with recently. Is I've always loved dance and yoga and fitness. And I just discovered this new yoga studio in my neighborhood, and they specialize in these handstand and flexibility workshops. So I've been spending a lot of time upside down recently doing these versions, which are really like physically intense, but mentally very meditative. So it's a great combination. And being upside down, I think it's all the blood to the head has really, changed my perspective. And I think I might join the circus next.
Well, I'll pay tickets to that, but I want to back up. So, how has it changed your perspective?
I think just when you go upside down on your hands and the blood rushes to your head, I feel very calm. So my mind is always, I have a million things on my mind, and this is really calming for me in a way that I haven't been able to achieve with pure meditation,
Wow,
if
that's
that makes sense.
I mean, since I haven't spent a lot of time upside down, I didn't like the whole, like, because yoga and me aren't a great fit. Pilates stuff was a little bit better for me, although a friend of mine's trying to get me to try it again. But I never liked that, the blood rush to the head, it would bother me. So I'm
Oh,
just maybe
really?
get past that. Maybe you need to do it enough to get past that, where then all of a sudden you can feel it as a calming effect as opposed to.
Yeah, I find it very calming. But I always did a lot of like gymnastics as a kid, so going upside down felt more natural to me.
Right.
I just hadn't done it in many years.
So, well, that
Try it again.
is really cool. And it's so funny. Everything you're saying is just like so interesting. It's not necessarily what I would have expected. Just, again, we've never met, so I can't make any judgments, but just from everything I've been reading about you or seeing about you. So this has been really lovely to get to know you this way and to learn more about you.
Thank you, Lisa. I feel the same. Really nice to meet you.
Yes. And Amanda, thank you. And thank you. I'm so happy that you can watch. Definitely, if you have someone, a woman marketer that you know that is someone that impresses you and you want to hear more about her, let me know and I will do my best. And thank you for watching. Thanks again, Amanda.
Thank you.